It is a great day to be a fan of the horror genre. If you love H.P. Lovecraft, which horror aficionado doesn't, right? Then you must have come across a myriad of cities, both fictional and real, in his works. Lovecraft's greatest gift was the ability to create a universe filled with cosmic dread, where humanity was reduced to an insignificant blurb of nothing. The cities that have featured in his stories form the eerie backdrops of the existential themes that are the very essence of Lovecraftian lore. These forgotten cities are mysterious, haunted, and ancient, and often have lost themselves in the waves of a dark and disjointed history. It is through these traitorous ruins that Lovecraft weaved his tales of the macabre and exploited the fragility of the human condition. These long-lost cities in the works of Lovecraft often serve as a symbol of grand insignificance, which in turn serves to point out just how brittle humanity's existence is. These places have seen the rise and fall of civilizations, witnessed bloodshed and laughter, and have stood tall until they were forgotten. Their decay is part of a larger plan where human beings play a very insignificant role. In fact, many of these cities also hold terrible ancient secrets that can lead to dangerous outcomes if delved into. The big picture that the writer wanted to create with these depictions is ultimately the futility of human essence. Let us take a look at some of the forgotten cities in Lovecraft stories, which reflect the remnants of a universe that is swarming with horrors of all kinds. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Eire. This is probably the most iconic and also horrifying of the forgotten cities, since it is where the great old one, Cthulhu, rests. The city made its first appearance in the short story of The Call of Cthulhu, and is a sunken city deep beneath the waters of the Pacific. Although there is some contention about the exact location of the city vis-a-vis the modern world, since some scholars say it is located in the Atlantic Ocean, while others state it is somewhere in the Baltic Sea. It is mostly believed that the point in the Pacific farthest away from land is where this great old city lies. It is very ancient, probably built back in the Paleozoic era, when the region was still dry, and later sank to the bottom of the ocean during some prehistoric cataclysmic activity. One of the most striking features of the city is its non-Euclidean geometry, huge structures, and the shifts in perspective, which can make the viewer confused about what is horizontal and what is vertical. This architectural theme is central to the works of the author because it symbolizes the uncomprehending nature of man to things beyond his senses. This city plays an important role in Lovecraft's worldview because it perfectly personifies cosmic horror and the unspeakable fear of the unknown. When it emerges in the story, only the weird monolith-crowned citadel is exposed, which shocks and awes the onlookers not just because of its massive size, but also the horrifying suggestiveness of the structures. Eire has a panorama that is described as too ghastly for this world, with disturbing images. The strange non-human architecture of the city also makes it difficult to explore on foot because the surfaces are treacherous and dangerous. The city of Eire is referred to with a strange ritualistic phrase in Lovecraft's story, which translates into "the dead Cthulhu awaits and dreams in his house." A lot of scholars believe that this is not just a place, but a symbol of the cosmic order where humans play pretty much no role. The slumbering presence of the Great Old One means that humans can never comprehend the timeline in which the rest of the cosmos operates. Even the smallest exposure to this city can drive people to insanity and ruin, which just proves how detrimental the psyche of humans can be when they are faced with the horrors of the unknown. Idan, the city of the Deep Ones, was built just above the foundation of the prison for the flying polyps, which is near the Devil's Reef. It was made of natural tunnels filled with air, and the temple and main hall dominated the structure. Idan was connected to Innsmouth and Devil's Reef with tunnels and also had a gateway leading to the Masonic Temple. There were prison cells as well as laboratory facilities within this city. The history of Idan is linked to Obed Marsh, a sea captain from Innsmouth who summoned the Deep Ones, and this led to a long alliance between humans and them. When the two races began to mate, Deep One human hybrids were the result, and they could not live on land and thus had to move to this city. In 1922, the US government launched an attack on the city, which left it abandoned but probably not destroyed. There are many different locations within Idan, such as the Portal Room, which Jack first visits, and this is located very close to the reef's entrance. There is an interdimensional gateway here that connects to the Masonic Hall, and Sebastian Marsh used this to arrive from the city when it was under attack. Then there are prison cells where unwanted guests are kept, sometimes abused, and even used for different experiments. Right on top of the cells There's the laboratory, which was being used by Esther Marsh until the time she had a fight with Robert Marsh and was either exiled or killed, leading to the shutdown of the locale. This lab holds samples of many prehistoric plants, and an unknown biochemical weapon was also created here. The temple was the home of Mother Hydra, a big dome-shaped structure where the deep ones would gather to worship the named figure. Hydra and the priests created a barrier around the city so that the U.S. submarines could not damage it any further. Through the city of Idan, Lovecraft meticulously blurred the lines between what is considered human and what is not. The hybridity that is often seen in the author's work is at the forefront here, along with aquatic horror, where the ocean and sea are not a natural force, but rather home to a legion of unknown and unwarranted terrors that mankind cannot handle. Kadath. The city of Kadath is mentioned in several of Lovecraft's stories, such as the Dream Cycle series and the more science fiction orientated At the Mountains of Madness. This is the home of the dream gods of Earth, also known as the Great Ones. The city is referred to mostly as Kadath in the Cold Waste in his works, and as such is a city unknown to humans as well as other mortal races. The exact location of Kadath is disputed, and it is not certain whether it exists only in the dream world or in the waking world as well. The Zoo were unable to tell whether the city was located in the dreamlands of the Earth or in another realm. Lovecraft hinted that the mountain ranges that lie beyond the Ling Plateau in the Antarctic region of the world could possibly hide the location of the city. Some other sources also point out that Kadath is located near the South Pole, but some say that it is somewhere in Mongolia, and it is neither part of the dream world nor the waking world. The hidden or unreachable feature associated with this city is a symbol of the fact that there are truths out there that are not known to man and will probably never be. The isolation of Kadath embodies the theme of humanity's willful ignorance of things beyond its immediate need. Did you know in the Doctor Who universe, both the cities of Kadath and Eire make their appearances? The Nameless City. The titular story is one of the most popular works by H.P. Lovecraft and features an ancient ruin located somewhere in the Arab Peninsula, which is far older than any civilization. The city was built and inhabited by an unnamed race of reptilian creatures, which looked like a cross between an elephant and a seal, with a head that looked like neither of the two animals, having a protruding forehead, an alligator-like jaw, horn, and no nose. These creatures traveled mostly by crawling, and therefore the architecture of the city was quite low, so that most human beings could not stand upright. The Nameless City was situated next to the sea original, but when it receded, the city was left in the middle of the desert, which led to its eventual ruin. However, the reptile-like creatures still maintain some sort of life in the underground of the city, which features images and texts about the history of the race, their heyday, and their eventual hatred for humanity. The story is where Abdul Alhazard is first mentioned. Although he is not the author of the haunted Necronomicon yet, the Nameless City is an example of Lovecraft using references from human history and his own imagination to create a fitting background for his tales of horror. The structure of this ancient city is again vastly different from that of humans, with labyrinth-like passages that defy the laws of physics. These physical disorientations are symbolic of the mental confusion humans are faced with when they have to encounter something beyond their comprehension. The recurrent theme of seeking ancient knowledge is something that is explored, especially knowledge of the past, which can be perilous. Celophyce. Just like many of Lovecraft's stories, Celophyce was inspired by a dream, created in a dream by Coronis when he was a child, and in his 40s. He keeps thinking of it again and again, until he ultimately slips into it in the dream world. Nights guide him through medieval Europe, to his ancestral estate, and finally, to Celophyce. Although he becomes the king and the chief god of the city, his body washes up by the tower of his ancestors. Later, when Randolph Carter pays him a visit, he finds out that Coronis has become so homesick for the childhood home that he has created parts of Celophyce to resemble Cornwall. Coronis also advises Carter, who is in search of his own dream world, to be cautious of what he wants because he might just get it. In the original story, the city is described as being located in the valley of Uth-Nargai, next to the Sarnath Sea. The most fascinating aspect of the city is that it is unaffected by the passage of time and neither decays nor falls into ruin. A person can visit it once and come back years later to see everything as the same. The turquoise temple of Nath-Horthath and the Street of Pillars are among the most important places in Celophyce. The snow-capped Mount Eire nearby has loads of ginkgo tree in its valley. Galleys from the port of Celophyce can go everywhere in the Dreamlands, and especially to the Kingdom of Clouds, Sarnath. The city is among the most impressive in the Dreamland, for its streets are paved with imported onyx, and there are pale marble walls with bronze statues and gold minarets. The economy of the city flourishes with trade, as it exports carved jade gold, red singing birds, and so on. Sarnath. Sarnath used to be a majestic city in Manar, a very remote land on Earth around 10,000 years ago. Human empire builders, who had immense wealth, were the primary citizens of this city, but it was built on blood, since the people of Sarnath had destroyed the ancient city of Ib, where non-human entities lived peacefully for over 1,000 years. This majestic city flourished. By the lake near which it was built, the splendor of the city could not be put down in words, because it was filled with palaces, gardens, temples, and residences, which were all grand and mighty. Princes and kings from other lands would travel hundreds of miles to come to Sarnath and pay homage to the marvelous city. The doom of Sarnath happens on the 1,000th anniversary of the destruction of Ib. The lake swelled dangerously, and the entity named Bakrug, who was worshipped by the people of Ib, took revenge on Sarnath's proud residents for the sacrilege they had committed. The city vanished over the course of a single day, and there was nothing left except muddy water filled with lizards. Sarnath was never resettled after this incident. The people of Ib had cursed Sarnath, and thus the doom was inevitable. Lovecraft meticulously explores the theme of the inevitability of fate through the story of the doom that came to Sarnath. The end of the city is not something that could be avoided, even though the place had developed so greatly. The plans for the doom were set in motion even before the city had reached its height. The theme of human hubris and arrogance is also depicted thoroughly in this story, as it gives the moral lesson that despite the level of advancement, no civilization can escape karma. Iram. This is a city that was visited by the mad Arabs in the desert. Interestingly enough, the city in itself is not original to Lovecraft, since it is inspired heavily by Iram, also known as the Atlantis of the Sand. The Islamic holy book Quran mentions Iram and states how it was a city of towers and majestic buildings. The Ad people inhabited the city and had turned to evil, and a prophet by the name of Hud was sent to reform the people, but he was paid no heed. Therefore, Iram was bathed in a sandstorm lasting 7 nights and 8 days, and this great city vanished beneath the sands forever, as if it never even existed in the first place. Shisar in Oman is a possible real-life location for the city of Iram, or Iram, since scholars have found satellite images of what appears to be a city buried beneath the ground. The theme of crime and punishment is signified through this forgotten city, and it means that no opulence of any kind can shield people from the retribution that awaits them for moral corruption. Marvelous verdict. These forgotten cities are not just settings for the stories created by Lovecraft. They are vital to the theme of horror that underlies his works. Whether they are hidden beneath ocean, have been buried underground, or have vanished altogether, they serve to explain the central themes of Lovecraft's work: the immateriality of human life and the fear of the unknown. Reading about these cities will bring us to the haunting realization that we are nothing but mere creatures who have no hand in the great plan of the universe. The readers are faced with the literal and metaphorical horror, where they must confront the fragility of their existence in the face of the vast cosmos. If you like this video, please let us know what other kinds of content you would like to see from us. Which is your favorite short story from H.P. Lovecraft? Let us know in the comments below.